right, Jennifer, how did you get into the industry? What inspired you to start your own firm?
Well, I was at the time I was traveling 5 days a week, and my husband at the time was traveling 2 weeks out of the month. So um, we had our first child, and just I wanted to stay in the restaurant business. I was a regional manager for a pretty big brand at the time.
Mhm.
So and we had just started using recruiters. So I thought, okay, this is something I could do and still be at home and still be involved in my kids' lives.
Mhm.
So ended up having two kids, and um they grew up saying, "Mom, you're always on the phone."
Yeah.
But I said, so that was how I started. And I started out kind of, I guess, networking with people that I knew in the business, and I had used a couple of recruiters. Um, at the time, we didn't have regional HR people. There was nothing like that. So we were sort of responsible for staffing on the management side, our territories. So
Mhm.
occasionally we needed help, and we contacted a recruiter, but I hadn't really, there wasn't a lot of competition at the time. I'll just say that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just kind of took off from there, and I really became interested in it, and I've been doing it for 27 years now. So
Yeah.
time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. Was it a hard adjustment? Going, it sounds like it was a pretty big change, even though you had connections.
Um, it was, and it wasn't. I guess maybe the thing that's different for me is that I didn't have a lot of pressure to make a lot of money right away, and I think
Hmm.
that takes away from, if you start your own business and you have a ton of pressure and you've got to, you know, get those dollars rolling right away. I think that adds a different dimension. I was able to kind of build my business, um, and as a result, and I really sort of had my mission, and I just said it right away, is that I'm always going to tell the truth, and I'm always going to have the same work integrity that I had before. And I think where people will get in trouble in any situation is when they're so desperate to make money that they make the wrong decisions for their selves and the clients. And that's just something that I kind of carried with me. And I also 100% believe that these are people's jobs. This is the way I make money, but these are people's lives. So
Hmm.
to me, that trumps me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and I have some really
Mhm.
great stories we can talk about later about, some great placements that make me love my job. So I still love it.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into that because I mean, first of all, I do want to hit the point of it is hard. I mean, I'm I'm the founder of Revive, and there's a lot of pressure when you have to make money, and
Yeah.
you go through that moment where you're deciding, am I gonna be honest in this, or am I gonna try to just make as much money as possible? And I think
Right.
that's where a huge dividing factor comes into play, for different businesses and how fast they grow, but also if they have clients that are happy, right?
Right.
And if the business stays afloat as well.
Right. And having to do that business development at the same time, which, I've always kind of balanced, okay, what am I doing today to generate income? And what
Mhm.
things am I doing to not generate income? And
Yeah.
try to, and just like your job, this job is really ADD. I mean, you've got calls coming in, you've got things that, your days aren't planned.
Hmm.
You can try to plan them, and that works well for me. I've been working out of my house for this entire time.
Hmm.
Um, so you have to be, and I'm sure you do too, you have to be pretty diligent in putting the time in, but at the same time, I can work at night and on my computer and watch my show. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of
Hmm.
flexibility in it. It's great.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I want to ask another question related to that because you've been doing it for 27 years, you said. So why do you love it? Why do you love your job?
Um, I love it for, I guess, different reasons, but there's always been one reason why I've always loved it, and that's making placements, making those matches where the client could be happier with the candidate, and the candidate and their family. And a lot of them have, families and kids, and it kind of changes somebody's life in a way. You find them a job that they would have never found on their own. If it's my client and they're not putting it out there online or on the internet, they would have never known about the job had it not been through a recruiter. So that's one of the things that makes me really happy, especially when things work out. And there's a lot of people that I've placed over the years that are now at the C-level. And, I placed them in this job, and then I might have placed them in another job. So it's a lot of fun in that regard. Things don't always work out, but that's life, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say that's primarily, I loved it a lot for its flexibility when my kids were young. And we could go on vacation. Back then I didn't even have a laptop, I don't think. But I carried my folders with me and just kept on top of what I had to do. So you can do a lot with your life and have a lot of fun. And be flexible and travel and do all those things that you can't do if you have an office job where you have to take PTO. I mean, I have, I guess unlimited, I can allow myself unlimited PTO.
Yeah.
So you just have to, again, you have to be a little bit more diligent about what you're doing to generate income on a daily basis.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I mean, honestly, I can relate to that. It's a big reason why we started this company is so that I could be around my family,
Right.
and pick the work-life balance. And it sounds like, especially if you're placing people a couple times, that you're keeping those relationships with your clients, and you are doing what you're saying, right? But I'm curious, just for the listeners, what are your typical clients and candidates? Who do you typically work with there so they can get a better idea of that?
Sure. Well, I started out for years and years and years, working for either independent restaurants or chain restaurants, and working with their managers, whether it was a kitchen manager or a chef, depending on what kind of restaurant. Working mostly in the higher level to casual dining, and working with a lot of fast casual as that became more important. And fast casual meaning like Chipotle, or just not QSR, but kind of in the middle between, with no servers. So what was the question again? Sorry.
Oh, your typical candidate or client.
Oh, so yeah, so that's kind of what I started out doing, and have really been very successful with small growing companies that don't have the support, maybe the recruiting support, the HR support. So I can add a lot more value to their team. I can help them on board. I can administer assessments. I can run the background checks. I could be a lot more than just, hey, here's a resume. Do you guys want to talk to this person? So I've really enjoyed that part. My clients that I'm working with now are small to medium companies. And I do a lot of director and VP and C-level work. And I think after this many years, and then a number of, I guess, clients, and just the number of people that I know has been great. Because I can go out there and network for a job. And I mean, LinkedIn is widely used, and I use that a lot. But will I turn down a unit level person? Absolutely not. And another note too, and being an entrepreneur as you are, I'm happy to talk to somebody if I don't have a job for them. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. I feel like it's one way that I can pay back, and you just never know. I don't know. And a lot of people ask me, hey, do you mind talking to my daughter or son and doing a little career counseling? Absolutely not. Just to kind of get them on the right track. So so I had like a candidate call me on Friday. He said, so we spent some time. I said, sure. And I don't have a job for him right now, but I might down the road. And it just was great to catch up. So I don't mind doing those kinds of things. And I think that leads to longevity in this world as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in recruiting and executive branding, I mean, who you know is, I mean, I guess in everything, who you know is a huge part to play in your success. And I mean, it sounds like it's a really nice change where you go in, you do a lot of the HR responsibilities as well, instead of just saying, hey, client, here's a resume, right? Like what you're saying. I think that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
really unique point to highlight on your end is, you know, you do a lot more than just sending over the candidate.
yeah,
Um,
I like that part.
yeah, yeah, I'm sure that your clients do too, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and it
awesome.
depends. I mean, the relationship with the client and the candidate, those are probably the two most important things that you can have, and understanding what the client wants, whoever that hiring manager is, really getting to know them, and just give me the good, bad, and the ugly. I mean, you know, I care, but I don't care. I mean, tell me whatever you need, I'll do.
Mhm.
So whatever kind of candidate you want, I'll find. Um, so just having that really truthful, straight on conversation about who you're looking for is really helpful. And then just going from there, and having a really solid communication level is super important. And if I don't have that, I feel like I can't be successful. So I tend to, I guess, lean to clients that are really communicative without sort of, oh, you know, beating them up. I'm not texting them all day, or I'm not, you know, just at least
Yeah,
an initial communication about what they want. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is really not working with tons of companies, but working with companies that I really enjoy working with, and they value my work. And you know, it doesn't always happen that way, but you know, that's kind of where I am now.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see it from the candidate point of view because that's our clients are a lot of the candidates, right? And finding new positions, VP, C level. And I can imagine how grateful that they are that you have conversations with them even when you can't place them. Because I know a lot of times it'll get circulated, you know, with different recruiters, but the recruiters are never able to call, which it's not their fault, right? I mean, they've got a lot going on.
Yeah,
But when you're
yeah,
able to take that time, I'm sure that pays off for you and for the candidate
yeah,
as well. And I see that happening. A lot of recruiters that I know that do that, like you, for example. I mean, it's a really, um, it's just I think it's a breath of fresh air, right? And it gives
yeah,
them an
yeah,
idea of okay, what am I seeing? You know, what do I do? Because like what you mentioned earlier at the beginning, it's their life, right? I mean, it's how they pay for the food on the table for their families.
right, right.
And there's a lot weighing on it, and there's a lot of stress on it. So if you can take that and alleviate that and help them out, I know that a lot of people are really grateful. So
Yeah, and part of what I do, just, you know, on that subject, is when we talk, not only will I take a look at their resume, but, you know, I'll take a look at their social media, and just kind
mhm,
of give them some tips on, and also, and this is this is true, when there you see a job out, you know, ad out there, there's a million of them, but I call it the black hole, and the resume
mhm,
goes in the black hole. And uh, part of that is, if you ever looked at a LinkedIn ad, they're like, oh, 1,200, you know, people applied today.
yeah.
So whoever's on the other side is overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And when we start to talk about AI, that's one of the things that um, is a little scary, is that you've got to be careful on your resume now to make sure you're matching those job descriptions. Um,
Mhm.
and the follow-up, I always tell people, okay, we'll send your resume in. If you're a really good fit, you're really interested, then find the head of HR or the CEO, or and message them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I sent you my resume, and here's why I think I'm a good fit. So kind of going that little extra mile there. But it is really challenging for people to find a job. You wouldn't think it would be, especially in the hospitality industry, where there's a lot of jobs. But yeah, that black hole exists, and it's
Yeah, it
frustrating for a
does.
lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does. I mean,
yeah,
we
and
see
you
it
work
all the
with
time.
candidates, I'm sure they're probably telling you that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
we see so we customize the resumes for the roles sometimes, and we'll update
great.
their LinkedIn's, polish them, and we see it's all the time. It's 100 plus applicants in this role, you know, 200 plus in this role, and it is a black hole. So finding a recruiter that can see opportunities that aren't on LinkedIn or that are on LinkedIn, but they can get your information to them and
Right.
make an introduction, it's huge. And
Exactly.
very beneficial because with AI, I'd like to jump into that because with AI, it makes it things good and bad and complicated. So what are your thoughts on AI when it comes to recruiting? You know, the good, the bad. What are your thoughts?
Well, I guess I kind of made a list. It's really, maybe I'm coming a little bit late to the game, but I'm really noticing how it's affecting other companies out there and how they're using it. And
Mhm.
how I personally use it is, if I want to help rewrite a resume, I'm sure you use it for that. It's a lot easier than the old write it from your head. So
Mhm.
that's changed things dramatically in terms of time. Um, I also use it to write job descriptions. If a company uses a JD, it works great.
Mhm.
Um, one of the things that I'm afraid of, and it's already happening, is when we get back to this black hole, the people so a lot of these companies are using certain, um, they're all doing the same thing, but the AI is basically looking at the resume and deciding whether or not, um, this app is deciding whether or not they want to move forward on this candidate. And that's all
Mhm.
based, as you know,
Tracking systems. Mhm.
yeah, it's all based on keywords.
Mhm.
So you almost have to change your resume for every job that you apply for to make sure you have those keywords in it. It's just kind of a bummer, actually. It's just, there's, you really want real people to be looking at your resume.
Mhm.
And as I say, one of the things that I do, which I think I have on my LinkedIn, is I like to look beyond the resume. And you
Mhm.
can't really do that if AI is excluding you. And there's also concerns out there about, uh, diversity and inclusion. AI doesn't, you know, at this point, can't tell. They're just looking for keywords, and there's some, potential legal ramifications on what AI is detecting and what they're not.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know. I think there's some ethical considerations. There's some things that are going to come up. I think overall it's a great technology. It's going to help. This is a people business. So I've talked to recruiters all the time. I'm like, I'm not worried because it's people. And
Mhm.
you can't AI people. You can't, it
Yeah.
can't be completely. I will never, I'm saying this now.
Mhm.
Um, I'll never use a computer to do my interviewing for me. And even to do people are doing that already. They're using AI to do a first screening.
Mhm.
And unless I just don't ever see myself being in that, even if I joined another agency and they were really big, I can't imagine just because you're that high volume that you would use that route. I could see corporate companies doing that and saying, hey, this is the first step of the interview. You're going to talk to a robot and they're going
Mhm.
to determine whether or not you move forward. And
Mhm.
I think that's going to happen and already is happening.
Yeah.
So that kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
hard situation because it could be so good and it could save, recruiters and a lot of people a lot of time.
yeah,
But the downside to that is if you don't have everything programmed into it, if you don't have different keywords listed in other ways, they're going to think they're not qualified when they are. They're just wording it differently, or they're just speaking about it differently,
right,
right?
right.
Or they're getting flagged. I've got people that get flagged because they use only AI to write their resumes, and it doesn't mean they're not qualified, but that's why we do what we do because we got to make sure that there is a personal touch, like in recruiting, so that
Yeah,
people are actually, getting they're able to showcase what they can do without missing opportunities that they're perfectly qualified for. Right? There's a lot of people that are getting pumped out of these online applications for no good reason. Right? And it's
right.
so frustrating because they're great fits. We know they're great fits, but you got to make sure that you're taking that into account and just hope that people are taking that point of view that you're taking of keep it personal, make sure you're keeping it as a people business because it doesn't seem like it's quite there. Maybe it will be at some point, but it doesn't seem it's there yet to
Yeah,
have it
agreed.
take over completely in that job search.
And I
So,
think most of the really good operators, leadership, whether it's in HR or operations, would still do believe that it is it's a personal, it's a people business. But
Mhm.
like for HR, I mean, there's so many things that it can add value to your payroll, to I mean, it can do a lot of things for HR that is really going to be great for their department.
Yeah.
Um, and there's some apps out there that are doing a lot of great things.
Mhm.
Um, so in particular for recruiting, like you said, good and bad.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we're gonna have to all adjust to it. And I think I love that I mean, you're gonna have to, obviously you already have sort of adapted to what you have to do for AI in your
Mhm.
position, writing those resumes and making sure they're getting to the right recruiter or getting into the right place so that they can get an interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's an interesting process for sure. And everything's changing right now, right?
it
And
is. Yeah.
it's changing, it's making it easier and more difficult at the same time. So it's really complicated, but I appreciate your insights with that. I think that's fun to hear. And I really think it's very beneficial for our candidates and our clients who would be your candidate, to hear what is good, what isn't good with it, and what you're doing about it. And I think, in my opinion, if I was listening to this, it would make me want to talk to you more because I'd love to get that personal touch when I'm working with the recruiter. Um, but I'm curious. I got one more question for you. Um, I know we've talked about what makes you unique with your recruiting firm and kind of different tactics you take. You mentioned at the beginning that you had maybe a story or an example of something that I think will showcase why you guys are unique, but just a success story or an example of how you were able to help somebody. Do you have anything on the top of your mind? If not, it's fine. But I think it might
Yeah.
be interesting to hear another
This
example.
was happened in like the last 90 days actually. And I have a lot of stories that 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 I make me happy and being in this business. But this one in particular, I got a resume from a guy that was in a five-star hotel on the West Coast, and I didn't have anything. First of all, I didn't even know if he'd want to move. He sent me a resume kind of out of the blue, and um, I try to do this. I don't do it all the time, but I thought, I'm going to pick up the phone and just call him. And
Hmm.
sometimes I don't have the time to pick up the phone and call every resume that I don't have something for. So this
Hmm.
particular, I thought, yeah, I'm really interested in this guy. And so he was an executive chef at a really, really fine dining hotel. So just so happened, good for me, that I was going out there the next week.
Hmm.
So he invited three of us to, I thought it was going to be just like drinks on him, but he bought drinks, dinner, dessert, um,
Wow.
which bonus, I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
We got to see him. A lot of chefs aren't that active in the front of the house. So he came out, he introduced himself. He paired wine with his food, which is amazing. He just
Mm.
did all these amazing things, and his personality. I loved his personality. And I love when chefs can come out and talk to guests. And so I thought when I left, and he really, really, really wanted to get to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Mm.
So I had a client in Raleigh and thought about it. And I thought, you know what, it's not the exact right fit in regards to like culinary style.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of took a chance. I called my client who I've been working with for 20 plus years, and um, they said, you know what, we're gonna find him a place. So they flew out to Scottsdale because they're based on the East Coast, and flew him into Scottsdale. They have a store there.
Mhm.
Talked to the guy all day, loved him, and hired him on the spot and gave him 10 grand to move. He had a baby he's married, and he is super happy in his job. They're super happy with him. And he got 10 grand to move to Raleigh, which is really hard to do at that unit level. And
Mhm.
this is kind of how much they trusted me. They didn't even do a phone interview with him. They just flew out there, um, I couldn't be happier that he and his baby and his wife are in the state they want to be in and are completely settled. And so that was just a great story. I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that too. I love that you kind of stuck your neck out for him. And I mean, obviously, you had a good relationship with your client for
Yeah,
working with him for over 20 years, and it paid off for him, right? Because you did
totally. Yeah.
some work on your end for a long time to gain trust, and then they didn't even need to see a resume or see more information or have an
No,
interview,
they
right?
didn't. I just said,
They went
yeah,
right at it.
trust me on
Yeah,
this one. And they're like, okay, we'll do it.
yeah,
And he's been part of the opening team and he's kicking ass.
yeah.
No,
That's ideal. That is ideal. That's
that is,
awesome.
I did. Doesn't always happen that way, but I
Yeah.
guess the happiest part of this is not only my client being happy, but having being a part of this little young family getting to
Mhm.
move where they wanted to move with help. And so that was just happened recently. And
Yeah.
that is why I love my job.
Yeah. That's amazing. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing
It's
that.
fun.
You've got great insights, great stories, and I appreciate everything that you've shared today. I'd
Yeah,
love to just ask you real quick before we end, what is the best way for, if let's say we have a candidate that's listening right now or a potential client that just really wants to talk to you more, what's the best way to find you and reach out to you?
sure. They can go to tierneyrecruiting.com,
Hmm.
and that is my website. They can also email me at Jennifer at Tierney Recruiting. And either one of those, and they can call me too. And my number is right on my website, and that's always a good way too. And if I'll call you back.
Hmm.
Probably the best way is to send a resume through my email and just attach a resume. And I like to, I really like to look at a resume before I call somebody back anyway. So
Hmm.
that's probably the best way to do it. And I also want to say for potential clients out there that I kind of talked about restaurants, restaurants being, but I'm really a hospitality person. I mean, I have another client right now who runs a medium-sized contract food company, and their clients would be universities, K through 12, businesses they provide food to. And I love this company. And this, their guests are obviously the students at the schools. So, they still have a guest, just a different kind of guest. So
Hmm.
I am not at all. And finally, I have sort of morphed into a generalist where corporate support, if they need marketing, they need real estate, they need construction, they need a business analyst, they need a CFO. I can do all that.
Hmm.
And I've really enjoyed working on things that are outside the box. It challenges me. And so I would put myself in that kind of that generalist role in hospitality.
Yeah. That's perfect. That is perfect. I'm going to include those links in this podcast below so that all listeners
Okay,
have it.
cool.
But thank you again for being here, Jennifer. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Yeah, love to. Thank you.